Welcome to the AFoOL podcast, and it's still Traintober. And in fact, it's the last AFoOL podcast of October. So if you see a light at the end of the tunnel, be careful. It might be a train.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of our AFoOL podcast. And we're still in October, so it's Traintober, and we've got a special guest for you today. But first of all, you guys know him. He's Joey from BrickTrains. It's his channel. This is his gig. Then we've got Jabo over here, aka Bricktsar. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves him. But up top in the corner from Brick Model Railroaders, we have our special guest today, Glenn, all the way from Pennsylvania.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Welcome.
So, Glenn, how did you get started model railroading in Lego?
Well, it's nice. It's actually nice that you asked that question in that way, because I would explain to anybody that I am a model railroader first and a Lego fan second, which is probably the backwards answer that I should give on this podcast. But yeah, I've been a train fan, I've enjoyed trains since I was longer than I can actually remember. My parents will tell me that I started getting into them around 2.5. And then so ever since then, it's just been trains. And then I would say around late 2006, maybe early 2007, I started getting more and more into Lego. I can actually tell you, I got the you remember the RC trains that came out between 9-volt and power functions?
Yeah.
I got
the rotary ducks.
Yep, the big ugly base. I got the passenger train first, and I built that and enjoyed it. And then I got the cargo train. And how was that? As like a 12-year-old or 11 or 12-year-old, that was like the world. And so like I had the carpet set up, and so I would, just enjoy that. And then I'd start to build more and more of my own stuff. And then that's just progressed into using Lego as a modeling medium.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, because I think a lot of us here we do, I don't know, we play with the trains, or we collect the sets, and you're right. I guess we're probably bigger Lego fans than we are. I know I'm not. I play with a lot of trains, and yeah, it's BrickTrains, but I am not a model railroader, nowhere near the scale that you are. I mean, the stuff that you guys do is awesome. I really do. There's 5 brick model railroader sets right behind me right now.
Oh yeah. Well, that's not a bad thing. It's like I have a huge respect for the people that collect and work to preserve and like continue telling the story of the Lego's history with trains, because it's more in depth than a lot of people would probably realize. And it's one of the things that I've tried to get into at like different times, is collecting the sets that I really like, and I don't have anywhere near as the ones that I would like, but there's not a wrong answer, I think. And Lego trains have such a really interesting history, with a lot of like, there's like clear progression in like the systems from like the 4.5 kind of into the 12-volt, kind of not in some ways, and then into the 9-volt, and so on. It's a really neat story to tell.
Yeah. And Lego wasn't always into the realism. Some models actually did capture it in a limited number of bricks, but you stepped it up with the brick model railroader kits. It's like I had never, I've seen your kits, and it took me a long time for I actually finally built some of them. And once I built them, I'm like, wow, this looks like the actual box car, the actual tank car, the hopper car.
It's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, the thing that gets me about looking at your models is the building techniques.
There is a lot of them.
Some of them, I don't know how they stay together.
I could go through any one of the models that I have sitting on my table and pick out some that I had never thought of before, some that I learned from other people, some that I would think that I came up with myself. Yeah. They are, not trying to say the wrong thing, they are definitely advanced.
Yeah. So
yeah, this is not something that you're buying for a small child, but this is a whole different hobby than collecting Lego. Model railroading in and of itself is an entity, and you've just chosen to use Lego as you said, the medium to
Yeah. But that's part of what I like about Lego is that you can do this a little bit with what I call traditional scale modeling, like HO and Lionel and all those other ones. You can choose the direction that you want to go with the Lego train. Like you can, some people will buy the sets off of the shelf at the Lego store or online, and they'll be perfectly happy with them. And other people will like take those and say, I like this, but I want to change this thing, this, and the other thing. Like, and Lego has done a really good job at making sets even more recently that allow you to do that. Like the Disney train and the crocodile. I'll defend the Disney train to the death because it's an awesome set. And then there are some people like me that there are some people that like do like 6 wide realism, 7 wide realism, 8 wide realism, 9 and 10 wide realism. Like you have so many different directions you can go.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that about the Disney train. A lot of people had a lot of negative things to say about it, mainly because of the cost. But
I can't understand why.
Yeah,
what you got for the cost was amazing.
Oh, I wrote the review when the Disney train came out. I went to the store that day and I called the store ahead and reserved one of them, and then went and bought it, and then instantly started putting it together. Finished it the next day, wrote the article over the weekend, and posted it the following week. So it wasn't like your big Lego media review because I had to buy it the day that it came out. Unfortunately, that's a whole different story. But the Lego train, the Disney train, what was it, $330? You get an amazing amount of everything with it. Like you get a decent locomotive that you can make into something more realistic. You can un-Disneyfy it. You get a nice like awning car that you can like un-Disneyfy if you want. It's not even that Disney, but it matches the Disney stuff. The passenger and then the passenger car you can that's so good. You have a nice train, and then all of those things are easily repeatable in different colors. So you can just grow and grow and grow. And the train is like the locomotive is upgradable. Both of the passenger cars are upgradable. Like you can do so many things. You can un-Disneyfy the station. It's a great building. I love that. Like that was incredible putting that together.
It's amazing to hear you talk about that and see the model railroader, and you look at that, break it down into its pieces. Pardon the pun for Lego there, but you can break it down into the bigger pieces and say, hey, I can do this with that. The locomotive has a very interesting build out of the box in the way. I'm sure have had the trouble with building trucks and getting things to track through the track. I thought it was, it's not prototypical of any sort, but the way they made that articulate I thought was pretty ingenious and reliable to run.
It is. That's part of the reason why I like still buying the sets from Lego, even though I don't really do anything with them anymore, is that I like to see the progression of Lego's trains in this day and age when you have people like me doing this kind of thing, which I know that they pay attention to. I know firsthand that they pay attention to things like that. And then I see them start to use like different parts of like community stuff. And then it's like, all right, we can maybe kick up our game a little bit, and they do the Disney train, and you've got the engine that's still, it looks good, but it's really easy to put together, and it's easy to run and easy to operate. It's not gonna like blow up on you,
right?
And
it's not gonna fall apart like the Toy Story train.
I had that one too.
That one was bad.
Yeah.
I modified that one too.
So do you think that they got inspiration from you guys or some of the other people from the community in making that train the width that it is? Because it's basically an 8 wide train.
Yeah, the locomotive at the cab is 8 studs wide. The tender at the core is 7, and I think both of the passenger cars at the core are 8, which is impressive. And I know that Lego pays attention to the train community in some capacity. I've talked to them about it.
They pay attention. They just don't make sets.
So that's a whole different avenue of conversation that we could get into, because like Lego, and we could fill 2 hours worth of podcast just on this. But so like everybody I'll try to sum it up. Everybody gets upset at Lego for transitioning out of the 9-volt era. The 9-volt era had, in my opinion, the best sets. They had like the Metroliner, you had the My Own Train, you had BNSF, Santa Fe, all of those sets. Then you could put them together and operate them on one layout, and they looked good together.
Mm-hmm.
Then they went to then they started. What happened in 2000? Around that time that 9-volt dropped, they dropped 9-volt as a system. Lego wasn't doing that well as a company, if I remember right. So they went a completely different direction, and then went another completely different direction. And then that's why we got the two RC sets, and that's why we started getting the city trains every 3 or 4 years, is just because they wanted to do just enough with them to keep us interested. And those people that wanted a train interested and able to buy them, enjoy them, and use them for like more hobby side of things, but they also wanted to just, in my opinion, I think that they were still paying attention to the growing and building community, because all of this was still going on in like around that time in like the 2013 and 14. They were still paying attention to it, and I think giving us just enough to work with on the custom side of things until they got to the point as a company where they could do something like the Disney train again, or the crocodile again, where you're looking into something that's more realistic and maybe more expensive, but something that people are still going to buy, whether it's a Disney or realism behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just my outsider's perspective, but
yeah, I don't. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
Well, I was because you got in on that RC train, so which is, I think that didn't work the way they wanted it, and that's why they quickly transitioned to power functions after that.
Mm-hmm.
But during that bad period for Lego financially in the early 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
when they had the My Own Train, you had the Santa Fe train, you had the My Own Train had not only sets but also the individual cars you could buy that were in the sets.
That's what everybody wants.
Yeah,
Everybody wants that.
So I remember those sets being, the individual cars being $4.50 on Lego Shop.
Wow.
I don't remember the price, but I remember them being on clearance at Target. We didn't have a Target here; it was in New Orleans. So
they blew those things out when they got rid of the 9-volt rails. They just blew them out.
That's when that was the time that I started getting in, like actually trying to buy sets on my own, going to the Lego. I moved to Massachusetts in 2006, and they had a Lego store in Natick. And before that, I had never even begun to imagine what a Lego store would have looked like. And that's where I went to that store, and I bought, I think on 2 different occasions, I got the BNSF, the green passenger car. That was on clearance. And then I think it was when I was getting the passenger car, I also walked out of the store with, you remember that green and white high-speed train that was 9-volt?
Mm-hmm.
They had the locomotive that was separate. I got one of those extra because it was like half price. And I remember thinking just like, what is this going to do? Like, are we not going to have trains anymore?
Yeah.
I was scared.
Yeah. It didn't click with me until there was no more 9-volt track after that. And I was like, oh no, they ended it.
Yep.
I didn't have an online community to look at to see what was going on. And
then they came out with the hobby train, and that was like the ragged end of 9-volt.
Yeah. So the hobby train was kind of special because one of those guys, Ben, was one of the first guys I discovered on the internet with the Lego train history. Mm-hmm. And it was cool to see one of his designs in that hobby train set.
I think there were 30 people.
There were. And the sad thing is, you had the instruction manual to build that Swiss locomotive, and then all the rest of them were online only.
That trips me up because when I opened the box, I didn't have an instruction manual in mind. Everything. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, I got all the instructions from online. That's when they were really pushing LDD and like the like make your own set kind of custom part of LDD.
Right.
Yeah, some of the factory sets, all the factory sets had online instructions, and only a handful, 2 or 3 of them actually had a printed instruction inside the box. The rest of them shipped outside of the box.
Yeah.
Are those available online? Are they on Brickset, or can you find them anywhere? All the other models?
Yeah, they're all of it. People save them. I think so, the alternate instructions.
I think I've still got them on my old laptop somewhere.
But they never did print them out, though, right?
No,
I mean,
no,
they were
they
all
never did.
you had to print them out yourself.
Yeah.
Or just, I think the way that I built it was I used LDD's instruction functions, which was awful.
Mhm.
Oh,
So, Glenn, do you have train layouts, or just what you travel with, or?
I have track that I set up on my floor.
Yeah.
That is, I should have cleaned that up now, but that's from testing other locomotives and
Yeah.
cars. I don't have a train layout beyond what I just showed you. I would love for that to not be the case. I have a few ideas of things that I would like to do, because we'll probably talk about the LGMS standard.
Mhm.
LGMS. And one of the things I want to do is build a module that can fit that to photograph locomotives and cars on. And like, also as like a how-to, is like, hey, this is not so as bad as it seems, because a lot of people will see that and just be like, I don't know what to do. But as far as a layout that I regularly use, it's just the Penlug layout. I've been working with Penlug and the Penlug layout in varying capacities since early 2014, after I turned 18 and was able to join the club. I met him at Philly Breakfast, I think early that year, and that's when I started like really getting into things. And I've been working with it ever since then. But we haven't done a show very recently, and even a little bit before that. There's a lot of things that we want to revamp on that layout.
Mhm.
yeah, I've seen that layout at Brick World a couple years in a row. Very
Yeah,
nice.
I had not been to a lot of shows. I'd been to Brick Fair, Alabama, and I'd seen Dixie Lug, which had the former North Georgia Lego Train Club people in it, and then you had the two guys in Florida, in Greater Florida.
Gaflug.
Yeah, the one that had won the lottery, and then the other one that's passed away since, Robin. But they had amazing training.
Robin Werner is the former, or the latter. Yeah,
Yeah.
I met him at Brick Fair 2016. He was a wonderful guy.
Yeah, so they had amazing stuff, but when I saw Penlug, that was like, to me, it was just so next level.
It's all Kale's fault, by the way.
So that's the most common one, is Penlug. Is that the biggest one?
You could probably say that. As far as freestanding American or United States train layouts, so that means
they bring
display
the whole thing
is centered around the trains, rather than we have a city guy who does this section, and then we have different things like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that either, but I think it might still be the biggest. There are a lot of other people who are starting to do more and more stuff like that, which is awesome. And especially with LGMS, you see a lot of people starting to build 3x3 baseplate sections that are incredible. But
is the Penlug layout LGMS standard?
No, not at all. The Penlug layout is, at this point, it's just held together with tape and bubble gum. Kind of a tongue-in-cheek saying, but it's kind of old and kind of worn out, and at this point, so
it's one thing I remember in HO scale model railroading when I was following that when I was younger. They would talk about them wearing the track out on their layout where they run all the time, and I imagine you running those heavy locomotives and cars on your track probably puts a strain on the track. And
I haven't seen that much wear on track.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there might be. I can't remember looking at a piece of Penlug track, but I definitely, with running, I would probably say my Crusader has probably got the most worn tires on it out of everything that I own, just because I run it so much. But yeah, it definitely they do wear a bit. I had a tank car back years ago now, but I built a tank car that I didn't have. This was long before bearings and long before I was smart enough to use the aluminum tubes with lubrication in them. that you put like the metal train axle into. That was a groundbreaking thing. But before I actually had the tube, I would just put them inside like the 1x1 plate modified with the studs that go this way. So I'd run the axle through that, and I ran that tank car so much that there were grooves in the top of it from the axle wearing that piece out.
Wow. So do we want to talk about the LGMS standard?
Sure. What would you like to know about it?
Well,
It's hard to nutshell, but well,
I was gonna say it's kind of I sat through a seminar, I guess, at Brickworld 2019, right? Yeah, it would have been.
That's the first year we had it. Anyway.
Okay, and were you there?
I was not there.
Okay,
the only time I've been to Brickworld is 2015.
Okay. So the whole plan here is to be able to allow anybody to build this 3x3 base plate module that they can plug into, at a show or convention or whatever.
Exactly.
And it seemed like that there had been quite a bit of discussion as, to try to hammer down the.
There was a lot of discussion. We started talking about the ideas for a standard at the NMRA 2018 show, which is where a bunch of people came in, because that was in Kansas City, and it's just central enough for people to get to, and we had a lot of people there. And I think it was like the Saturday night after the public hours, we went and had dinner. Then we hung out at one of the hosting guys' house in his basement, and it was just like 15 train nuts talking about how can we make this happen. And there was a lot of discussion on things like, all right, how high do we need to make the tables, or do we make the table a standard height, or do we make the rail a standard height? There's a lot of discussion on that. There was a lot of discussion on like, all right, are we going to have like a minimum curve radius? Like, how are we going to break up? Like, how are we going to have it connect to each other? How are we going to, what's the minimum that we're going to allow, that we're going to require? So yeah, there was an insane amount of discussion, and I think that we only published it in like the spring or early summer of 2019, which is like 6 or 8 months later after we started talking about it. And this was after forming like a Facebook group of like 30 people trying to get everybody's opinion on it. And then like, we'd stall out, of course, like everybody knows what that's like. And then like, all right, we'll come back and do it again. But that was, I think Brickworld 2019 was the first time, and that was like 10 months after we started talking about it. It was the first time that we had anything that we could put under the banner of LGMS together.
Was that the first time they had a layout together of different people?
No, it was the first LGMS layout.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, first LGMS specific layout at a show.
Okay.
I think anywhere, but
I was going to say, well, it's kind of hard to get. I mean, those 3x3 modules get pretty big, so it's not something you can just do in your basement. Well, I can't do in my basement. I don't have the room.
Yeah, it's 3x3. We kind of decided on as like the minimum of a module that we could build, because like you can expand that laterally and you can expand it depth-wise,
right?
In varying degrees, and so like, because of that, you'll often have people that build at different lengths, and then it's just up to whoever is coordinating that show to kind of lay them out in the way that makes the most sense. But 3x3 is nice because you can fit a decent amount of stuff inside of that space on both, this way and this way. And then, you still got the 2 tracks that you can run two different trains through and stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely can agree, because like even with 3x3, you got to figure out like, all right, how am I going to actually bring it up to the height? Like you got to think about the table. We can use the folding tables to some extent, but they only go so far until you have like 3 base plates worth of gap on like this side that you don't have on the other side. But we tried. That's like that was another topic of discussion, was like, all right, are we going to require custom tables or?
Yeah, it seemed like there had been several unique. It looked like people were using some of the folding tables, and then had risers to meet or to get to the correct height and stuff. Did they change the height? It seemed like they lowered it again, or? Yeah,
I personally would have loved to keep it at the higher height, but we initially set the height of the rail head at 36 inch. I think whatever it was, we lowered it by like 5 inches or so. And I would love, like, I'm a model railroader. I want my like, if I'm standing up, I want my trains to be right here.
Right.
And like at a show, I understand you've got kids that are that tall.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if a 5-inch difference can be a big deal to a lot of people. So I understand it, but I'm like, can we not just make it a little bit higher? Is that, yeah, at 2019, the consensus from the group was, let's try this number. I think it was the railhead height of 36 inches. And then everybody, well, a key number of people, and I understand their points were like, that's too high. We need to drop it back down. And so that's what we did.
I do a lot of train show, the Evansville Train Show Club. And so we built a table, two tables, and we were actually significantly lower than that. We're closer to like 25, 26 inches.
Oh, you're down there then.
Yeah, but our whole intent is that we want 5 and 6 year old kids to be able to be over it and look down at it, to be able to see the stuff in the back.
So
but we're not model railroading either. We're
true.
throwing Lego sets on there that we're just running.
So this is actually another point of like the table height discussion. So you consider like, what's the best way to view a model train? Do you want to look down at it going like this, or do you want to look here at it going across your vision?
Sure. Right.
So that's part of the reason why some people wanted it to be higher. And and that's also part of the reason why we had the base plate in front of the track, is like we can force people, and also why we use like the rope around it to some extent.
Yeah.
It's like it's nicer to look at a train rather than look at a train.
Yeah.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. But higher train levels, like my train over here, my 4x8 table is 48 inches off the ground, and that's almost too low.
I would love to have a 48-inch table.
Well, my basement layout is probably 48 inches too, and that's just because I don't want to bend over. It hurts my back.
Yeah.
And at the shows, I've seen them higher on some of the HO scale modules.
Yep. I think we took a lot of inspiration from the Fremo standard, which is basically it's like a minimum set of requirements to build an HO module, and their layouts are like here.
Yeah.
It's an HO train, so it's that big in front of you, but it's still here, and you're like, or around that height, and you're still like looking at it. If you're an adult, you can really appreciate and enjoy it, because a lot of these guys have like really nice models and are like doing the operation side of things. But again, they're at a train show, and we're in this really odd niche where we go to Lego shows and have to entertain 5 and 6 year old kids, and train shows that entertain 5 and 6 year old kids, but also keep the attention of the adults there and entertain ourselves. So it's really weird.
It is a balance, and I definitely didn't want to open up a can of worms on table height.
It was probably the most discussed topic when we were forming LGMS.
Okay. So this decision to put the base plate in the front of the track, that is to make it, is that so it looks more like it's in the terrain, or?
It was a multitude of reasons, and that's definitely one of them. Part of it was, I think you guys mentioned this on one of your other podcasts, because I've been enjoying these tremendously. But part of it was to not, if your locomotive fails in some way and it tumps over towards the crowd, what's going to be there? Because in Penn, like, we have the plexiglass, and we run trains 4 studs from the edge, which is not that bad. I don't love plexiglass because it gets dirty and it's hard to see through. But still, like, you need something there. Just like, we're not running bomb-proof models all the time. It's like, as solid as I think I can build a locomotive, it's going to fail at some point. And everybody in the world has had that problem. And I like, part of it is that. Part of it looks nicer because you can do like foreground scenery. You can have trains going like behind and between mounds of dirt and everything like that. But you can also, it's also part of it because it makes it a nice even square that you can expand for the purposes of a module.
I have, that has always been, the table height thing to me is just, it is what it is. Each show may be different, whatever. The base plate in the front was kind of a bone of contention with me. My layout, I don't run it. I don't, my layout,
do whatever you want.
Right. And we didn't do that at the train shows. But again, at the train show that we were going to, if we ran it off the table, we just scooped it up and put it in a bucket, and we got another Lego train set out and went. We didn't have these multi-$1,000 investments that would fall off.
Wow, I don't know if I have a multi-$1,000 investment.
Well,
I know.
2019, they sold a pair of F7 Santa Fe, and
that was a charity auction, though.
Yes,
but it not a bad thing. But it's still
two people were going after it. So
it's not a bad thing. But wow.
Yeah. Well, so is it? What's the T1? Can I talk about the T1? Where are you at in that?
You can talk about the T1. I keep most of the updates private to just the customers, just as a courtesy.
Sure.
I send them like a blind copy email to everyone when we have something we have an update. We're basically just at the point of waiting on electronics. Is the general way, but rather not talk about cost.
Sure. No.
It's up there though. It's so the Brickmania S160 that we did in late 2018, Cal and I did that. That was $865, and that's a 280. But that's, consider what you're getting in that box. It's the locomotive, motor, receiver, battery, remote. And a lot of people are going to have a remote, but not everybody is going to. So you have to include that. All of those electronics themselves are expensive because even in late 2018, power functions is getting phased out.
Right.
You've got 3D printed parts on the wheels. You've got, it's black, so it's not that hard to build. It's not super expensive in parts. You got the Lego drive wheels, though that's a little bit. So so that's a 280, and that's $865. So you can kind of extrapolate that to figure out what a 484 locomotive.
Yeah, and I don't think you're out of the ballpark. I really don't. For what it is and what you're getting, no.
A lot of people don't understand that, but those same people aren't going to buy it anyways.
Right. It's like when you look at there's certain HO scale locomotives that I would like to buy, but I can't afford them. They're
me too.
But I did buy a Reading T1. Broadway Limited. I had to get one of those.
Of course.
But I think when you start talking $800, $1,600, $2,500, $3,000 for Lionel trains, it's like those are.
It's up there.
Yeah.
So you haven't even gotten into O scale brass yet. That's like $6,000.
You're gonna have to pay slowly.
So, do you think are you more comfortable with the Brickmania route or the I guess BMR took the T1 all on its own, right?
Yep, we did. I don't regret it at all. It's been a wonderful experience. I've enjoyed doing it. The best thing that I could say about that is that just Brickmania has more experience and more people than us. That's really just what it comes down to. I mean,
how many people you got?
We have. Let me think. We have myself, Kale. We brought 3 guys on officially as writers and designers within the last year, I think. We have a couple of guys in the Netherlands, and then we have one other guy who was our ambassador for the LAN. So that's 2, 3, 2, 1. It's 8 guys.
So they got you back in the LAN.
What's that?
I said you're back in the LAN now.
Not yet. That whole situation. I don't want to talk about that too much, but that whole situation, it was very annoying, and it could have been fixed with an email on Lego's part.
Let's not get Jabo started.
Don't get me wrong.
I can see his blood pressure going up from here.
You can be silent on this, but one of the things with the Disney train, I was like, why did y'all not get one early? But you don't have to say anything.
I don't understand why we don't get more stuff from Lego. I think it's just because we just don't have enough visitors to our website. That's all. That's my best guess. I don't know an answer. But I mean, we're trains, and no matter how you spin it, we're a niche.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't mind going to the Lego store and getting one myself.
Yeah,
because I'm happy to have one.
I don't want to change the topic, but I meant to ask you this earlier. What scale are you more involved with outside of Lego? What scale model railroading are you?
Really none. I guess you could say HO because I don't really do anything. I really don't do anything at all outside of Lego. There are things that I would like to do outside of Lego. Like I would, but I have no legitimate ambitions to do. Well, when I say that, it's not like I want to build my own HO scale layout or whatever else. There are aspects of other traditional scales that I enjoy. Like I enjoy the ultra realism of the Proto 48 scale, which is taking O scale and making it as accurate as you can. And that's like similar along the lines of this, but it's also the most expensive thing that you can do. So I also like HO because there's the most available for HO ready to run. There's also the most available brass locomotives and customization options that you can do. It's the most, I would say it's probably one of the most active scales to model in. And if I were to do anything, I would do HO, but I don't really have plans for anything.
Okay. So I misunderstood because you said you were a model railroader first, but you're a model railroader that uses Lego.
Yes. It's a long title, but it's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Well, and to some degree, it's probably the easiest to get into. Model railroading in, like you were talking about the proto, the O gauge stuff that them guys do. You kind of, there's a little bit of skill that you've got to either learn or develop those skills to do the painting and the kit bashing and stuff they do.
There definitely is.
Yeah, Lego is Lego. It fits together, and
it's a different set of skills, but it's still the skills are just in kind of, I don't know if intrinsic is the right word, but they're separated and part of those hobbies, but they're still a very specific, unique set of skills.
Yeah. So Joey said kit bashing.
Uh-oh.
That's it's kind of funny to me, but it's like I don't think a lot in the Lego community know what that means, but it would be the opposite of being a Lego purist.
It would absolutely.
There's a lot in the Lego community that frown upon modifying your Lego bricks or kits. So
can't understand why.
Yeah. Okay. Do whatever you want with what you got.
Exactly. I have, of course, again, model railroader first. I have paint, glued, and cut in one model before. And that's just because, and like a lot of it is subtle. I try to keep it very subtle, and a lot of the way that I build a model is that, can I do it in real bricks? And if I can, I do that. Like, it's not like I look to do those things first, but if there's like a handful of parts that aren't available in black and they make the model look that much better, I'm going to paint them. Or if there's, on one locomotive that I've been working on for a long time now, like a year, that isn't done yet, I've been able to build a section of the walkway on either side of the boiler in a certain spot to where that you can put the pieces together in such a way that they fit there and don't conflict with the other parts around them, but they're not studded into anything. And the best way to have that fixed is to glue them together at the ends. Now it's subtle. You're never going to know unless I tell you.
Right.
But the only way to save myself that last bit of sanity that I have at shows when I'm handling the model and those pieces falling out when I turn it over is to glue them. So part of it's like a small bit of convenience thing, but like.
So you talked about building that for over a year. So is that a prototype, or you just keep changing it, or? It's
a prototype. It's a locomotive that I probably I would call myself a self-proclaimed expert on. One of the ones that I've been researching for a long time, and one that I started a version of back in like 2009 or 10, and it's gone through like 4 or 5 different iterations through that time between then and now. And the only reason I'm building it now is that I have the technology available to build the version of that engine that I want to build. So go ahead. Sorry.
Do you take it apart and rebuild it, or do you build another one based off of what you learned from the first one?
It's entirely the second. So a lot of it is just all go and go and go. It's just all digitally, really. I use Studio and LDD. Before I start building anything physical, I work out all the kinks, but it's just try this one direction and say, all right, that doesn't work. I'm going to start again. And so what I'll do is just copy and paste the old version and then change what I want on it or start completely over. I built multiple models that way, where it's just in my studio files, it's like a string of like I built a really specific freight car last year or so, and if I were to open the studio file and show you, it's like 7 models down here and then like another 8 in between, and then almost the final model, and then in a new file the final model.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's a really weird building process, but it kind of works for me.
Well, working digitally, you know, I don't use LDD, but I use MCAD, the other, and working in it is, it's different than building with the bricks, because you forget about gravity sometimes. Right? Like, oh wait, that's not gonna stay there. It's not.
I built a freight car recently where the entire when I ordered the parts for it, the entire ends of the car just were floating. And so I got to that point in building it. I was like, that's not going to work. So that was like the rest of my evening was like re-engineering just that one little part of that car.
Yeah.
Is that, you forget about gravity and you forget about that parts only exist in 3 dimensions instead of 4. So you can't have parts clipping through each other.
First,
run into that all the time.
The first kit you made, the PS1, correct? And I remember contacting you because there was the 1x1 tile that was just floating. Not connected. And Lego has since made the very part that I envisioned would fix the problem. The
1x3 2-stud jumper.
Yeah. Perfect. Exactly what Kel needed.
It's so funny that you say that, because like I remember going through that model like at a show before we had any consideration of doing it for Brick Model Roader. I was looking at a similar car that Kale had did, because Kale's a genius. Yeah. I was looking at the roof on it, and then somehow I looked on the back. You're talking about the end wall of the car. Yeah. I opened the car and looked at the back side of it, and it's a Lego. It is a Lego sticker holding that part on from the inside of the car. Like it's a genuine Lego solution to do. It's a Lego sticker holding that 1x1 tile on from the inside of the car that you're never going to see. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. But it's by definition, it is a genuine Lego solution.
Yeah, when they came out with that piece in white, because it wasn't in white first in my car.
No, it wasn't
the white version, and so I've gone through and since replaced them with that, so I don't have the floating piece anymore.
That was this one, right?
Yeah,
that's it. Well, you got one of the first batches. Yep, that was one of the first batches.
So
the second part of the first batch.
Do y'all update anything in your instruction manuals as you do batches? Yeah,
we do. We have a pretty solid editing team put together right now. And then the rest of it is like stuff still happens. People will find a mistake somewhere, and it still gets fixed. It's like it's just part of it. It's like everybody has that happen, like Lego with the Porsche GT3, whatever it was. That stuff happens even with Lego, and it's going to happen with us. We're much smaller, and no matter how many people we have look at it, somebody's going to miss something. So,
do you have that customer who's always pointing that out to you? The same guys, like, that's not going to work, Glenn.
One of the, if he's watching this, I don't want to. I don't want to say it
in the podcast.
Well, no, I don't want to say it negatively to begin with, but we have one guy on our editing team that takes editing a lot farther than I probably would have, and he's great for it. Like, he catches a lot of small things, which is fantastic. But he often will say, and he knows that he does this, and he's messaged me before and he says, like, I'm not nitpicking, I'm just trying to be helpful. But he's got like, he'll come back with like a 3-part email series that long, each one, about like this, and this. And it's like, we do what we can with that, but there's still parts of those things that like we'd have to rebuild the model, which doesn't make any sense. And we built the model this way for a reason. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah,
he comes back with improvements.
Yeah. It's not like, I think that this model is bad and you should change this X, Y, and Z. It's like, I think it would make more sense if you like swapped this set of instructions around, or here's a grammatical error, or,
Yeah.
things that are specific to that, rather than like you guys are going about things the wrong way.
Okay.
We don't have anybody like that. Well, we had a couple people that bought the PS1 that said that there was too much internal structure, but we just don't like our boxcars to implode when we pick them up.
Right. Yeah. I've done that before. I've designed them in LDRAW or MCAD, and then you build it and still building it or whatever, and then my 3-year-old grandson comes along and goes, crunch.
Yep.
That'll work.
That was a problem when I did the Union Pacific Challenger boxcar.
Yeah.
That thing's like a short car and it's got panels up the side. So I had to figure out a way to use those 1x2x2 bricks in panels on top of each other, but not get the sides to just crunch in.
Right.
That was I'm not sure how I built that car. I don't know what I was doing.
It looks like you're talking about Dakota, Joey. Did you find him?
I found him. Yeah.
So I got a question about your parts
I have
list.
to see those trains.
On your parts list, Glenn.
Yes. On
So
the couplers?
I asked you about the couplers too, but on the
All right.
part list, you got the part number, the quantity, and to build the alternate builds and the different colors. Do you have like a file that you make that has like maybe the Bricklink part IDs? Have y'all done that where you share it with people that purchase the instructions?
We haven't done that. The only reason that we haven't done that is because anything digital is really easy to share. That was a huge talking point between Kale and myself when we started doing anything sales wise. Is like, are we going to do something physical or are we going to do something digital? Because digital is easy. Well, within reason, digital is really easy. It's just you can automate an email to go to somebody after they purchase something in your online store. There's no challenge there.
Well, I'm not talking about the actual instructions. I'm just talking about.
No, you're talking about an XML file that you can upload to Bricklink. Yeah, we haven't done that either. We get a lot of questions about it, and I give them the same answer every time. Not that that's a great thing, but like anything, our mentality is just anything digital is easy to share. And I mean, you can go to the trouble if you want to. You can go to the trouble of photocopying instructions, but we're gonna find that anyways, and we're gonna raise a fuss about it. And that's a lot of effort that 99 out of 100 people won't go through anyways.
Yeah. Right. So the thing that I usually do to save time, because I have done it where I just go and get the parts as I'm building, but I like to get all the parts first, and that's time consuming. So the easiest thing I have found to do, I would recommend doing for anybody that buys your instructions, is go ahead and just make your XML file first. Make your wanted list first.
That's essentially what I've done. Just like kind of internal to BMR. There's a couple different models that I've just built with the instructions, and then I've kind of just put off to the side just so that I can have like a Bricklink wanted list ready whenever I get to that point.
Yeah. I made the mistake though, is I went through, there was one of them that the flat car, for instance, I built 2 different versions of the flat car, and I made the mistake of deleting my wanted list as I was getting the part. I'm like, oh, I got to enter all these parts again.
Oh no.
You saved me on that, Dabo, because I seen where you were you had talked about that in your video, and I was putting it in for the Challenger in getting the parts, and you said something about, I was deleting these, and I was like, oh yeah, that ain't gonna work.
Especially I think Nate's Mox, I think he's built more BMR rolling stock than everybody in the world combined, maybe. I don't know.
There's a couple of guys that I could name off the top of my head that have built a lot, but I think Nate is one of the guys that builds. Well, his challenge to himself was to build every boxcar that we did. With every decal that we did, which is a lot.
Yeah,
because we've got like the PS1, we've got like 30 decals for.
Yeah,
and that's just that car. And then he wanted to build like 20 dark brown hoppers or reddish brown hoppers. I'm sorry, just because they were Pennsylvania and they would have matched the locomotives that he has. He's got so many of our cars.
Yeah, just imagine, he's done some videos, but it's like 40 box cars going by.
There's
it's crazy.
go, not to self-advertise because I hate doing that and I hate when other people do that, but I have a video from earlier this year. Was the only train show that we did this year was when we did an LGMS layout in Timonium, Maryland. Nate Robinson was there. It's the first time I've seen him in forever, and he had all of his cars there, and he did like a 40-car train.
Wow.
With all of his box cars. It's in like the second half of my video, and he's got like all 3 of his F units like weighted down with lead and 2 train motors in each one of them, just dragging that 40-car passenger or 40-car freight train, even with bearings. I mean, like that's impressive. That's a lot of cars.
It's a lot of cars.
There's a limit. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to change the subject, but I mean,
a quick offsuit. Like there is a lot of people don't consider this, but the limit to like the pulling power of a single locomotive is actually probably lower than you think. So like I've got locomotives that I've been working on that I think are very strong, and they are, but they still will not, because of how fast they need to go, they still won't pull more than like 14 cars comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
The S160 is a wonderful outlier because I can pull 14 cars with just that engine.
Hey, would you consider building a caboose with a motor in the caboose to push?
I am a huge believer of making your locomotives powered. So with a couple of exceptions. So like I want the locomotive to be able to move by its own. It's like I don't want to be forced to use a power car for any reason. But there are a couple of exceptions to that. So like one of the things that I really would like to do is a 19th century, a 20th century steam locomotive, like the Old West style, and do it like accurately. And there's no way I'm going to be able to fit a motor in it. Well, I've tried and I might have an idea, but to pull a long train, you need to put, like if you're going to put not enough power in the locomotive, whatever that might be, you're going to have to put motors in your cars. So like there are a couple of passenger trains that I would like to build where I have battled with myself in my mind that say like, all right, I'm going to need another passenger car with motors in it just because I want the train to be that long and that heavy and just have one locomotive on the front.
I've done the Leviathan and I have 3 cars behind it. And of course the motor, it's just a standard train motor, and that's in the tender because you're right. I can't get it in anywhere else.
It is difficult.
It is. And I'm in 6 wide, so that even tightens everything up even more. So you have just no room at all.
I'm pushing the way that I've got it's like a proof of concept right now in studio, but the way that I've got that laid out, I am really pushing it on the scale of that locomotive. Like it's out of scale by all definitions, but it's the only way I can do it and have it look right.
So that was what I was going to go to earlier is scale, because I know Earl has a question about track and 6 wide and 8 wide. So I'm just going to kick this off by asking, what is the scale for 8 wide? Because scale is different than gauge.
It is. Definitely is. The scale that we use for 8 wide derives from 8 studs to 10 feet.
Okay.
Or 4 to 5. And that comes from
7.5 foot tall minifigure.
Yeah, basically. Well, we're kind of on this. If you consider an object next to the minifigure, we're on the small end of that scale. Stuff like Brickmania, they build a 135, and that's like the high end,
right?
For a lot of reasons. But for 8 studs wide, if you do the math, converting all of those numbers, it comes into like 146 and a decimal, which we just round off to 148 because it's close enough to a accepted traditional scale.
Right.
So that's what we call 8 wide, and that's where the pen leg scale comes from. And pen leg scale comes from the container port that Nate Brill did, where he and Cale tried to come up with a standard length for a 40-foot container, and they just decided, hey, 32 studs, that works out. So that's where that all came from, and so that got adapted into pen leg scale, and that's kind of where 148 comes from.
Okay.
But it's even though it's technically not 148.
So, is that what the couplers? What the scale of the couplers?
The scale of the couplers is 148.
Okay. And
I'm gonna.
So I was thinking that's not. Is that a scale that is used? That's not a scale that's used in O scale, is it?
It's O scale is 1/48.
But this realistic O scale is what you're saying.
Yes, realistic O scale. So it's like if you look at a Lionel coupler, it's much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And that's just like a nuance of Lionel and what you would call like O27 or 3-rail high rail.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of thing. But
The toy scale of O scale.
The toy scale, and those are like $2,100 models.
Yeah.
Because I did buy one of the Legacy or Lionel Legacy or whatever they call it. That's got the Bluetooth, and it's got the big couplers too, like the cheaper stuff they make. It's only $300 or $400.
I think a lot of that is easy functionality.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I would say that's exactly what that's for.
So what I want to know is if you're going to go to you're going to take a 6-rail and you're going to make an 8-rod car, why wouldn't, and you're going to have 3D printed curves so you have the bigger radius, why would you not just go to an 8-wide rail?
Because technically at 8 wide, the rails are too far apart already. So if you're gauging to the track, 10 wide is the closest. But 8 wide is kind of the most happy medium between 6 and 10. And 8 wide is probably the most supported. It's kind of like the HO scale of Lego, if that makes sense. It's what, like, the people who are doing the modeling side of it, it's what most people use. And then there have been people that have done both sides of that, getting bigger and getting smaller. But that's a good question. It's like if we're gonna go to the trouble of doing all this custom work, why not just take it one step further? Is because it's a line that everyone has to draw for themselves. And like, if you're not happy, what are you doing in the hobby? But like for me, it's about like, well, I'm still calling it a Lego train. I want it to be operable mostly on Lego track. It's like I want to use the gauge that Lego makes, and
Right.
because that is
barrier to entry.
Yeah, that's basically it. It is a good question though, because like a lot of people were like, well, why don't you just keep going? And it's like, well, because I don't want to keep going. It's like I'm happy what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because you talked about how the 8 wide, the pin lug gauge, and how that got there, but I would think, again, going up to 10 wide or whatever, you could get more realism in your models.
You absolutely can.
So yeah, because I know I understand and I see the detail that goes into an 8 wide model, but yet I still run 6 wide and I don't have the detail. So there's that level there. I also have a 3-year-old grandson. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good reason. It just comes down to a trade-off. It's like you're going to spend more money
sure,
the bigger you build, regardless of how much detail you put into it, and like just find your own happy medium, whatever that is.
Going like an engineer, because I look at the Disney train and the only thing I see wrong with it is, why are the seats facing me instead of facing forward? Glenn's looking at it saying, I can do this to the engine. I could do this. I could spread this out. I could.
I actually am an engineer in my day job.
there you go.
I went to school to be an engineer, but they didn't have any trains at my school, so I left.
You just went to the wrong school. They didn't have very many at mine either. I just made it work.
So, I meant to ask you when you were talking about the locomotive you're working on. Is it one that there's a real one in existence today?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys go look at it.
There's a couple. Well, there's a lot of locomotives that I've been working on recently, and the answer to that is mixed. So depending on which one you're talking about, there are a couple of them. A couple of the locomotives that I'm modeling that are still around, and a couple that aren't.
Oh, okay.
And
I'm assuming these are models that you're probably going to do in BMR. That's why you're being secretive as what they are.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of backstage things just kind of in the works right now, and it's just a lot of things that we're trying to test the waters on. I mean, if you're on Instagram, it's probably not very much of a secret that Brickmania is going to build more trains, and if you can put 2 and 2 together, you probably can figure out that I'm heavily involved in that.
Yeah.
So that's part of it, and they haven't done any reveal for that yet. So I'm kind of just following their lead, if you will.
I was going to ask you about the Challenger boxcar that you made. So I actually saw one in person and didn't realize it until after I built it. And then I was like, "Yeah, they got one at the Colorado Railroad Museum," and I was like, "Wait a minute, I went there." It was so faded. Their boxcar was so faded. I didn't really realize that I had seen it, and then I went back and looked, and this is it.
There
so
it
did you see that one there, or was there another one that you had?
It was that one, really. Okay. The kind of mini story behind that. So Nate Brill is a huge fan of like unique steam locomotives, which is really rubbed off on me. So he's done a lot of. He's a fan of just unique trains, which is rubbed off on me. And the Challenger boxcar, he built the Challenger boxcar before I did. Oh. And it's a wonderful model, and that's what inspired me to do the Challenger boxcar for the Brickworld exclusive kit. And that was the 9149 at Colorado. That was the only one, as far as I know, that's preserved. Okay. We put numbers in for 9150 for the 150th of the Golden Spike, and we put 9149 in on the sticker sheet because that's the surviving one.
Okay.
I actually presented a copy of that built car on a display track to engineers at Union Pacific last year.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Through I'm a mechanical engineer in the rail industry, and that was part of what I did at the end of last year, was go to Omaha and visit Union Pacific and do that. So
are you building them a Lego big boy to put in their office?
Actually I am. That project, we originally decided that we're gonna do a big boy a long time ago, like before we even considered a T1. We were thinking about a big boy, and we even went as far as to get a lot of research and like copies of original drawings and stuff like that to do that. But we've had to put that on the back seat so many times. Like, we wanted to do it last year, we couldn't make it work last year. We wanted to do it this year, we couldn't make it work this year. It's really unfortunate, but hopefully things are gonna change on that. And I know a lot of people will say, like, well, why can't you just do it already? It's because we have so many other things that make more sense to do first. And it's just like, that gets into the whole business side of things that I enjoy less than just the Lego side of things. But
that would be my question too, how much does the business side of BMR cut into your joy of train modeling?
I try to keep it in balance no matter what.
That's tough.
Yeah, I've been extremely burned out before on a number of different things, and Lego as a side hobby, because I can't call it a job. I can't reasonably call it a job. As an intense side hobby has taken a toll on me before. And so, but I've learned from that, and I've learned to just like, all right, I need to step away from a while. I have a very good relationship with Kale, who completely understands the same way. We kind of give and take there. And everybody else involved too is like, we've had people that have just said, hey, I gotta go take care of some other stuff right now. And it's, so, but it does cut in some. I mean, anybody who's done it will tell you that running your hobby as a business can be exhausting, and it is. And because there's a reason why anybody will tell you that, is just because that's the fact of the matter. If you do things in such a certain way, that's just what's going to happen. Yeah. Period. And it's just balancing it.
That's why Jabo's Bricklink store is always closed.
Yeah.
Good question.
I thought it was closed because sometimes he sells stuff he doesn't want to sell, so he's got to purge it.
He's got to sit back and collect his thoughts about it.
Yeah. That's why I got to make those wanted lists for the rest of the BMR stuff I need to build. It's like I'll pick an order and I'm like, oh, I needed that for that box. I haven't built yet.
I want to know, do you have every time you do a haul, you're like, well, I picked these up because I need them for BMR Railroad. You can never have enough. Do you know where all those are?
Oh yeah, yes. Those, like I bought the windows for the passenger cars. That I know where those are, but I haven't done a lot of the hauls for the stuff. I like to try to figure out ways of getting the parts in quantity. Since I'm not in a lug and things, hard for me to lug bulk, but sometimes bricks and pieces isn't the good price. But I'll try to see if Set's got the parts in a certain quantity. That's my cat making noise.
Hi, Charlie.
But how do you source your parts, Glenn?
I don't. I honestly don't.
Oh.
I was talking. I have a terrible habit of not sorting. It's like I was cleaning my table up today, and all of my sorts is like a little bit about me. So just the way that my brain works, I keep a really good mental tab on where things are in my life, physically and mentally. So what I'll do is just like, this is like the result of like a summer's worth of building models, and it's just like these are the leftover parts. But since that I've already done that and had so much experience with these parts, I know most of what's in that box.
Okay.
Which is a terrible way to sort. I don't recommend it, but so far it's worked for me. I want to change it a bit.
So Julian, Bricksmith does a little short sort. You could maybe learn from him.
Maybe I should. I guess I should.
Hey, I was on his show one time, and he did not like my sorting habit at all. I just sorted it by color.
Oh, a lot of people will tell you that you're doing it wrong.
I know. Trust me.
I hear that. I've heard that a lot about other things. It's not wrong if it's your way.
That's
Your
right.
way is the right way.
That's
whether they like it or not, it's the right way.
Don't tell me how to do my hobby.
That's my entire mentality with modeling. It's just I'm doing what I want that makes me happy. So,
yep.
And to your credit, Joey, I have sorted by color. Just all my old bad quality parts are in a hallway in my apartment in big white bins sorted by color.
Well, it sounds bad, but it's not as bad as you think. Usually I'm looking for, if I'm doing a project or mock, if I'm trying to put together a BMR boxcar, absolutely worst way ever to sort your parts. But if I'm doing a mock and I know it's going to be primarily in blue or red or whatever, then it's like grab that bin and go for it, But if I've done something digitally, I've already got the XML file I've uploaded to Bricklink, and
there you go.
You don't even look in your parts.
No, I don't.
So when you design these digital designs, has there been a time when you've gone to build the actual one, like when y'all do your video that you're going to present these models and you're like, oh, I can't find this part in that color?
Yeah, I just paint them.
You said at the beginning you paint them.
It's a really, really quick answer, but that's what I do.
Is that in the instructions?
No.
I won't produce a model that you need to customize to that extent.
Yeah.
It's like I will. That's something that I believe very strongly about. Is like I want to produce a model that you can build using the custom parts that we give you and whatever you have or can find online.
Mm-hmm.
And so far it's not stopped me yet. Yeah. But on my own locomotives and stuff that I'm keeping for myself, I don't even have to think about that, which is a blessing and a curse. Yeah. But like I've got on this corner of my desk, I have a box for electronics. I've got a box for tools, which is like files and pliers and stuff like that. And then I've got a box for oil, paint, and glue. And I've got like different spray paint matches for different color matches in Lego.
Well, those are three things that the Lego people are cringing right now: oil, paint, and glue.
You say that, but they have done all of those things on models they display in public.
Yes. Yeah.
And 3D printed.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, not to forget. Yeah, the stickers as well on top of all that. So I joke because I used to get the comments, people like, I call them purist snobs or something, but nobody is truly a Lego purist. They may say they are, but nobody is.
Nobody is. I got a comment. I got an Instagram message like that not too long ago. I posted when we came out with when we came out with the couplers. Somebody sent me the hashtag not my Lego train. It's like,
okay.
like do you really have to take out? Like he might watch this, and I really don't care. But like, do you really have to take the time out of your day to message me that, and then have a conversation where you're telling me that I'm doing something the wrong way? And like I'll respond to him just as I will with anybody else. It's like that's not what I want to do, and that's not what a lot of other people want to do because people are getting these.
Mm-hmm.
So
So how has the couplers been received? Is it going well?
I would definitely say that they're going well. Of course, not everybody is instantly sold on them, I guess.
Right.
But I think that as more people get them and show them, it's going to make more sense. And especially, well, there's also a replacement for the magnet. Both the knuckles that we did and this replacement for the magnet, it's done by a company it's done by Life Lights.
Okay.
Yeah, it's done by Life Lights. He calls it's like an offshoot of that. He calls Studley trains. But he designed the three of us that were involved in the knuckles. We also had him, Rob Hendricks, in our group chat, and we basically co-designed these at the same time. So it's not to like step on each other's toes or anything, but a lot of people are probably going to get those, and that's fine. That's no problem. I'm actually still going to use them because they're stronger than Lego, and I like to put them between the locomotive and tenders because I don't want to have that between them because I have to back that in and then lift them out, and they're stronger. But like, so he's doing that, and then we're doing the knuckles for the people that want them. I mean, a lot of what is behind the thought process for the instructions and the things that we do is just the people who want them will get them, and whoever doesn't want them just won't get them.
Right.
So,
is there any plans to do other custom pieces? The brick arms pieces that you put in the models, or are you going to venture into that more?
There are a couple things that I would like to do. Of course, that all takes time and money.
Sure, absolutely.
But yeah, there are things that I would like to do, and especially having the resource, but especially having the guy or Richard Glatter as part of Brickforge, who we did these couplers with. It opens the door for a lot, and there are definitely some things that I would like to do. It's just we're kind of just letting the couplers go.
Do you think it hurts a little bit that all the people who have already built your models, now that they have to, if they're going to go to couplers, they need to get the couplers and then kind of tear apart their model a little bit to rebuild it to use the coupler?
I don't feel bad for a couple reasons. One, it's because it's their decision, and if they want to get into that, they can. And two, within the scope of the brick model railroader cars that we've sold instructions for, we actually have a PDF file of conversion instructions for everything that we sold so far, which is a free download.
Yeah, I got it.
And it'll show you like it's broken up by these are the different kind of trucks that we use on X, Y, and Z cars, and it says like, all right, here's how to convert this one. Next section, here's how to convert this one, kind of thing. Here's the couplers that you need. Here's the extra parts that you need. Here's the parts to take off. That kind of thing. Yeah. But it's ultimately up to whatever they want to do.
I do something that a lot of people probably don't. I don't know. I've done it on my. Because there's different types of couplers, like with the HO scale trains that I have. I got 3 or 4 different types of couplers. Sometimes I will modify one car to have a different coupler on each end so I can run a train with the different couplers. So I thought, you know what, I could do, even if I don't get a bunch of the couplers, if I wanted to have some of the cars as display pieces, I could have one car that's like the converter.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've seen people doing. I've actually got a car for that purpose for myself, just for the time being. Of course, I'm going to convert all mine to use the knuckles just because I like them. But yeah, it's entirely what you can do. So like, and you can have multiple converter cars. Like if you buy one coupler pack, you have 2 couplers to use on 2 different cars.
Yeah.
To accomplish the same goal. So you don't have to use this one car, which is kind of nice too.
What is your ultimate? What is your goal with Brick Model Railroader? Do you see this as something that will continue to grow and get bigger, where you have more members of your team around the world, or do you just like it where it's at? Or
I would like to get a couple more people involved in different areas of the world, just for the sake of having outreach, and in those areas. Other than that, I'm really happy with what we're doing. I mean, and I'm sure this will change, but like ideas will come along and stuff like that. But I think that we have a really good thing going, and like doing the articles and like the different types and styles of articles that we do, the different people writing them, so you get different perspectives, and then doing the instructions as well, and the whole sales and I guess more business side of things. Like I'm really happy with what I have helped to create. It's never something that I thought I would have been able to do, but here I am. But as far as goals go, I just want to just not mess anything up.
Yeah.
It's a good question though.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Do you have an idea of how big? Well, I mean, I know you know how big your company is, but I guess the model railroading Lego community, you guys are on the higher end of the product. How much penetration into that do you think you have? I mean, I've got 5 sets sitting here. Do you think all the, is it like a 10% of the Lego people are buying your stuff?
Honestly, I have no idea.
I don't even know how you would quantify that.
Yeah, I have no idea. I try not to pay attention at all into how much we sell or how much we make, because it's almost the furthest thing from why I'm doing it.
Well, yeah. Again,
I mean, it's something to pay attention to, but yeah.
So I guess a good way to quantify that is are you getting new customers on a regular basis, or have you kind of like?
Okay, I see what you're asking. Yeah, I would say that we do have a pretty, I mean, it's tapered off, obviously, like it would.
Well, this year's a bad year.
Yeah, it's like we have a good amount of new people, I think, every time that we do anything. Anytime we go to a show, we have people saying like, "Oh, wow, this is really neat. Can I buy one? Can I buy one of those?" Or, "Wow, this is really neat. Do you have a business card?" Any number of other things like that. So that's the harder part of it to quantify. But and as far as like orders go, I recognize a lot of names. I don't recognize all of them, because like I get the emails that come through whenever the orders come in, because like, I mean, why wouldn't I?
Right.
But and I always I pay attention to what is sold, just so I can see if it's like, all right, looking at that sort of like in an analytical way, rather than like, hey, look, we're making X, Y, and Z dollars.
Yeah. So has any of your products taken off a lot better than you thought, or didn't perform as well as you thought?
The ones that I think should have sold the most did, and the ones that I'm not surprised about. Okay. For example, the boxcar, we've sold more of those. One reason because it's the oldest, one reason because it's a boxcar. That is not surprising. And on the other side, what is not surprising is that we sell the least amount of cabooses. So like the Northeastern caboose, even considering how many decal options we have for it and how many others we could do, we just haven't. It's like not as many people want just a caboose, because I mean, it's a caboose. It's
well, that Northeastern caboose. My problem with it is mostly Northeastern Railroad.
See, that's the other part of it too. And like people are gonna want. I mean, some people don't care and they'll put decals or whatever.
I'm just joking.
I mean, it's like no, I know, but like that was one of the things that I wanted to do the opposite way with the wide vision car, is because I tried to pick like 6 different areas of the United States that use this car, and that's why it turned into, I wanted to do 3, but Kale convinced me to do 6 because he's insane. But that's why it turned into 6, is because like, wow, we could get a really good geographical railroading map of the United States if we do all of these different cars. And that's why the book is 1/2 inch thick. But
I really do like the caboose. I do. And
I'm glad.
I went for the Norfolk and Western one, and I got a HO scale version to go with it.
There you go.
You've caused me to buy more HO scale trains, because I'm trying to match them. and I'm more careful about the numbers now because I started realizing, they're using prototype numbers. So I'm trying to make sure when I get the details.
We are as prototypical as we can research.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't choose some railroads when I did the wide vision cabooses, just because I couldn't find the interior diagram for them.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So every single one of those, I used a genuine interior diagram to model.
Are we going to
That was a lot of fun.
Are we going to see European freight and passenger locomotives in the future, possibly?
I think it's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
That means I know more than I'm saying, but
Yeah.
I mean, we've got
a little bit.
That's one of the things that I was thinking about. Again, with not to sell more, but is more of an outreach thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that we've got our guys in the Netherlands and just there across the sea right now, but like they're also all of those guys and everybody on the team is just an incredible hobbyist and incredible modeler. So like it would only make sense to do. And I mean, like there are things that we'll have to figure out, but I can definitely see that coming in the future.
Well, that would be a good market to open up, I would imagine, because the model railroading in Europe is big.
It is big. There are other people doing similar things to different extents in the European markets. I mean, there's no reason why we can't do the same thing or why others can't also do the same thing.
Right.
I mean, like there are other people doing things similar to what we do, and it's
you got in the YouTube community. We got some pretty popular channels that are train focused. That are in Europe. I think you had Banana Berman.
Banana Berman. Yeah, I would love to have been on that podcast, but we had him on. Yeah, we had our guy Enrico in the Netherlands. He's created the BMR podcast, and he had him on. We were talking about different things, or he had him on, but yeah. There's that's an interesting that's a whole other topic we could talk about, like the YouTube side of things. But a lot of people are more into it than others. Like you guys are all more into it than I do, because all I do is just go to a show, take clips on my iPhone, and then string them together and upload them.
It's the Lego community on YouTube, I think, has kind of helped some people come out, and I don't think they came out the right way. But, so, for instance, I was associated with the local lug here, which had a lot of connections to the Lego Train Club, North Georgia Lego Train Club, which was one of the first big websites about trains and Lego.
Right.
But those guys had no interest in any kind of YouTube thing when YouTube came along. But now they do. It's like they've kind of and they've started doing it. You got Fazoom and all these other guys, and they're more gung-ho about it than I am, and I've been doing it for 8 years.
Yeah.
And it's neat to see ones, because when I go to shows and I would see all the awesome builders, I met you guys up there in Philly, and like a lot of times the guys that are building these awesome models, they're not dorks like me making stupid YouTube videos. But now we're kind of coming together with stuff like this.
A lot of them are, and in a lot of different ways and degrees.
No.
Well, one other question I'd like to ask is, you said you work for a railroad.
I work for a railroad company.
Company
what's the best way to put it?
They do work for railroad.
They not a railroad contractor. I'd say I work in the rail industry.
Okay, right.
As a mechanical engineer, I work on, the best way to say it is I work on parts for freight cars.
Okay. Yeah. I have just found that in the times I've been to some rail yards at work back in the day, it always fascinated me that a lot of the guys that work for railroads aren't really into the hobby side.
No, a lot of them aren't, and a lot of them hate the people that are.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's completely true, but
I was gonna say I've seen being in the train show part of it, not in the model railroaders, but I've seen a lot of these guys that are, especially in our area, like Monon, which is a local railroad. Some of those guys get serious about not only their collecting, but they worked for
Yeah.
the railroad. So I think and I have definitely seen the people who are like, I do trains at work. Why would I do that at home?
I've seen that too. I think it's part of just the way that I am. It's just like I don't care one way or another. I'd rather just do all of one thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are a lot of people that is like, work is work. I don't do trains at home.
Yeah. I play with plastic at home, but I don't make it. So
yeah. Exactly.
And I really go ahead.
What about a passenger train? Can do an Amtrak?
No. There is a completely different set of rules between freight and passenger, and the company that I work for has no interest in it, as far as I'm aware. Freight's a lot easier. And that's just kind of what we've been into historically.
Right.
Actually, the company I work for, we make polycarbonate, so a lot of we make a lot of material that goes into the transportation business, and a lot of it does go into train windows. So
interesting.
Very tiny little fact that
it's interesting though.
I mean, well, I could say I'm in the train business, but I'm not.
You're in a business that reaches into the train.
At least 3 tiers down. So
yeah, well, hey, that's a connect. It's like what is it? 6 degrees of railroad industry or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I sell groceries, and at one point, I'm sure a lot of them came in on trains.
Oh yeah, see, there you go. You can't not connect everything to the railroads.
I was gonna say, you can't get away from the railroads. Everything somehow is connected to the railroad.
And I work in the 911 industry. And they did and they used to have to call all the time about the railroad crossing where the big trucks would get stuck.
Operation, yeah.
And one of the, I'm not going to say which one, but one of the cities that I work at, it used to be one of the most dangerous, and they have been for the last 5 years building the bridge to where the main road will now go under the train track to eliminate these trucks trying to cross the track. It's been taking a long time to build it.
Long time.
Yeah. This is a true story. I was at the 911 center, and they got the call about the truck stuck on the track. And I was like, I want to go.
Field trip.
Yeah, because we've seen it. I've seen the aftermath, but I'm sorry, that's the bad side of the industry, and nobody that works for any of the major railroads wants me to talk about stuff like that. But
I'm sure the trucking industry doesn't either.
Yeah.
No.
Sounds like a good video to me.
They put the signs up, no trucks.
There you go. All of a sudden, there's a truck. Optimus sees the light at the end of the tunnel. The engineer sees an idiot standing on the tracks or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to simplify it.
We'd like to thank everybody for watching the AFoOL podcast, and especially for having Glenn here with us tonight. And Glenn, and as we leave here, where can people find you?
Oh, goodness. I am on YouTube. If you search my name, Glenn Holland. I also use the moniker Streamlined Bricks on YouTube. I probably won't for much longer, but at least right now. If you search my name in Lego, you'll find it. I'm on Instagram under the handle @Emperor of the North Pole. And then you can go to brickmodelrailroader.com for, I guess, anything in between.
Great. And so we really appreciate it, man. This is, I think trains is one of the most important aspects of the Lego hobby. And it's nice to have
nobody else will tell you that, but I agree.
People like things that move. Trains move, and we like them. And so even though we're old fans, wait a minute. No, we're fans of old Lego. We're also old fans of
I didn't say it.
The Lego train theme began in 1966. We had a few little crazy things before that, but it's nice to see how you've improved on that with Brick Model Railroader and also your custom things that you've done. But thank you for being on the show with us. Thank you, Mardi Gras Man, for being here, and BrickTrains for hosting all this, and links in the descriptions to everybody's work. And we'll be back again for another AFoOL podcast.
All right, everybody.
Hey, guys.